some marriages live their course. And so when you can recognize that you're not happy in that situation and you move forward and you continue your life, that's not because you were a failure. Things just don't always work out in a marriage.
I am Gloria Grace Rand, founder of The Love Method and author of the #1 Amazon bestseller, Live, Love, Engage: How to Stop Doubting Yourself and Start Being Yourself. In this podcast, we share practical advice from a spiritual perspective on how to live fully, love deeply, and engage authentically, so you can create a life and business with more impact, influence, and income. Welcome to Live, Love, Engage. Namaste. If your world feels like it's been shattered by divorce, what if you could see it as an opportunity to write the next extraordinary chapter of your life? Well, our guest today shares her groundbreaking approach to turning emotional wounds into wisdom, helping you realign with your soul's purpose and reclaim your power on all levels. But first, I do want to welcome you to Live, Love, Engage, especially if this is your first time. I am Gloria Grace, and I help female entrepreneurs attract ideal clients by going beyond traditional search engine optimization techniques to embrace my definition of SEO, spiritually engaging others. And joining us today, as I said, is a wonderful woman who I have actually met in person, and she's a wonderful lady. Her name is Amanda Beth Johnson, and she is a certified divorce coach, best-selling author, and speaker who combines over 30 years of crisis intervention experience with 6 Theta Healing certifications to offer unparalleled guidance. And her compassionate approach empowers clients to navigate the complexities of divorce with resilience, fostering healing and personal growth during life's most challenging transitions. So without further ado, I'm going to bring her up and welcome you officially to Live, Love, Engage, Amanda.
Hi, Gloria. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I love catching your show each week. It's just always something to look forward to.
Well, I appreciate that. And we've known each other for a couple of years now, but this is the first time I get to really put you in the spotlight. And and I'm excited to do that because I've seen you really blossom over the last couple of years. And so I thought we'd start out by asking you a little bit about because I kind of knew where you were a couple of years ago, but what inspired you to really focus on divorce coaching?
Well, as everything in my life, it's a crazy story. So in one of our networking things, I was talking about, building my healing business and bringing aligned clients into it. And a fella in that says, you need to focus on divorce. I'm like, I didn't include that as part of my story. I never said that part of it. And then it was like, oh, okay, well, this is true. I'm pretty well versed with divorce. I'm a child of divorce. My mom was divorced 4 times, and I was there for all of them. I was widowed, and then I myself was divorced. And just being able to feel into that, and that was probably the springboard opportunity in my life, because divorce brings out so many things, and it just seems to be that opportunity to look at, as little girls, we plan the perfect marriage, the perfect wedding, and how everything's going to be perfect and we're going to live happily ever after. And I had that for most of my marriage. And then when I didn't have that, and it came about that the divorce was imminent, and I really lost myself because I had attached so much of my identity to being a mom and being a wife and doing all of those things. And then when the divorce happened, it shattered. And I realized that I needed help. I needed to get out of this funk. And it took me a few years. And so when I found my way through healing, and now I'm promoting the healing, and someone says, you need to focus on the divorce part of it. And it's like, that's what led me to the healing. So being able to work with individuals when they realize that this big shift, and statistically, it's the second most emotional and devastating thing you go through in your life. And so I want to be there to help people and to help them to understand it. Divorce isn't fatal.
Mm.
There's a lot of recovery and a lot of healing and so much opportunity, and when I work with folks, if we can save your marriage, I definitely want to do that. It is a sacred institution. I'm not promoting divorce, but when it happens, and the statistics tell us it happens far too often, I want to help you rebuild your life to
Mm.
the life you want to have.
Yeah, because you really do need healing from it because you're grieving your marriage, right?
Oh,
Which
absolutely.
yeah, which I don't think people always necessarily think about it that way, but yeah, I know just for me, I mean, I've gone through a separation, and when I was pondering that, I was like, just as you said, you have this ideal, and I come from a broken family, as they say too, yes, my parents divorced, and I was like, I was going to be the one who was going to have, this marriage that was going to last, a lifetime, and we're still married, we're just not living together. And so it's a little different, but yeah, um so I and I love how that, this person suggested, well, yeah, you need to talk about divorce, but that, I like that. So um how do you incorporate then like theta healing in with the divorce coaching, or is that still something separate? I was just curious.
So when you look at what a divorce coach does, a divorce coach is kind of like your private personal assistant that helps break down all these big, impossible tasks as a divorce and chunk it into little pieces that you can deal with
Mm,
and makes things more manageable. And so a lot of times we have our best friends, we have a lot of people in our lives who are very well meaning. They aren't always objective with us. Sometimes they side with us. And it's more important to have someone who's objective that can keep you focused on what your goal is. And one of the first things that I feel individuals need to do is they need to process that emotional part. And so many of us are empaths. And when you're an empath, it is so much more difficult to separate out what are my feelings and what are their feelings so that you know what you're really dealing with. And to be able to pull out and do that emotional healing. Because like you said, it's grieving. So there are those 5 stages of grief that you go through. The denial, all the way through to acceptance and getting through each of those stages. And divorce hurts. And then we have the whole pressures of society bringing us down, oh, if you divorce, it's fail. It's not a failure. You work in a job, you like your job in the beginning, and then your job isn't working for you and you leave a job and you do something different in life. You're not a failure. And some marriages live their course. And so when you can recognize that you're not happy in that situation and you move forward and you continue your life, that's not because you were a failure. Things just don't always work out in a marriage. And so first I like to help put that in its perspective. And when we can take blame out and we can take out that anger and we can work through that in a healthy way. And so I bring theta into that so that we can clear those limiting beliefs, that a divorce is a failure, that you did something wrong, and so when we can take that, it doesn't change the experience and it doesn't change that it was a pretty, I don't want to say awful, but it was an experience. It was a big deal. But when you can look more objectively at that big deal, then you can move forward with your life instead of being stuck in that muck and feeling icky every day.
yeah, and we don't want to feel icky every day.
No,
That's
but
for
I
sure.
think that we just accept that it's okay.
Yeah,
Oh, you got divorced, so you're a less than citizen.
yeah,
And that's not true. And you need to be able to get out of that without feeling guilty.
yeah.
And yeah, there are some people that absolutely celebrate divorce is the best thing that ever happened to them. That was great and wonderful. But for a lot of people, that's not the situation. There's so much. You were coupled for so long and
Mhm.
had dreams together, and now those dreams are going to change. And how do we redirect those
Right.
to finding, for me, that was the final blow in my life that I really needed to readjust what I was doing, how I was doing, and I needed to take care of me. And
Mm.
that was a huge step to learn to take care of me, that
Mm.
I was worthy of that.
Oh, yeah. You definitely are. And I just realized too is that I'm throwing the term theta healing around, and there may be people out there who are like, what is that? So can you sort of give maybe a simplified version to explain what that is? Because I know I have experienced it, but I know there's probably a lot of people who may not.
So theta healing, it's a method of healing that's been around for about 30 years now. 𝘺𝘮𝘊 created this method of healing. And so the word theta refers to the theta brainwave. And theta brainwaves is like when you're waking up in the morning, that lucid time when you're not awake and you're not asleep. Theta is also the brainwave state that ideally you go to during meditation, and a lot of healing happens there. And most everybody's going to recognize theta brainwave is the brainwave they take you to during hypnosis. And so with theta, I drop into a theta brainwave and I co create with your higher power, if that's God, Allah, source, universe, whoever that is. And we work through the limiting beliefs. And theta healing is believed to change those beliefs clear down to the cellular level for 7 generations moving forward and 7 generations back. So the changes are pretty permanent. And then you can work through those emotions and you're not triggered by everything. Still happened. You still have your lessons, but you're not triggered by it. And so it's very quick. It's a very rapid method of healing that we're able to do.
Mm. And that's certainly something that I think a lot of a lot of folks like today is, we want to be fixed now, we don't want to
Yeah.
wait.
And I work with clients for a very short period of time. I don't want lifelong clients.
Mm.
I want you to be happy and to heal and to get on with your life. And something else comes up, yeah, you can call me later, but no, I'm not looking for lifelong clients. I want
Yeah.
you to be happy. And I'm going to teach you also in this process how you can help identify what's going on and what are the things you need to change and where did they come from.
Mm.
We come into this world where souls having a human experience and we bring some of our life lessons with us, and that's our intuition. And we have access to that until, well, usually until we go to public school. Uh, and then we just don't. We start connecting with what we hear and what we learn and what we're exposed to. And those things are not always the divine definitions. And so being in contact with the divine definition, it's kind of like the Facebook definition or Miriam's, the Webster dictionary, the real definition. And so clearing that up and clearing up how we've come into knowing these things. We're little sponges and we absorb everything around us. And at the time when we absorb them, those are really poignant lessons and they're good cautions in our life. But as we learn and grow, those lessons, we don't need those anymore. And those cautions we don't need. And so being able to remove that limitation and allow us to think from a more mature state is so important.
Yeah. I wonder if you could share an example, perhaps, of maybe a transformative moment or something that a client has had that you've worked with, either with even just with theta healing in particular, or even just in your general talking about this and helping them work through divorce.
So I think that one of the biggest things in working through the divorce is for I create a safe space. So anything that you say in our sessions, obviously it stays between us. And I'm able to sometimes be, I guess you could say, devil's advocate to help you look at all the sides of a situation and look at what you're talking about doing in your plans and how that is going to help you meet your goal. And so talking about that. And I remember I had a client recently, and she wasn't really sure. She was a mess. He threw out divorce. She threw out divorce. They'd been throwing out the word, but she wasn't really sure. And it's like, okay, what can we do to save this? How do you see this going forward? And looking at what the patterns are. And then she realized that, these patterns and, divorce was imminent for them. And so, okay. And so we shifted gears into what are the things you need to do here. And looking at, and then she wanted to start dating. And so that's okay. But we were able to talk about the frankness of the divorce was still so raw. And by moving into the dating stage where she was at, that was a distraction. And that was going to derail her being as whole and healthy as she could be before she moved forward. It was going to be a big old Band-Aid. And so being able to look at that and be objective, with no opinion on my part, it was listening to her words, and her word was distraction. It's like, we're going to pull this back in and we're going to talk about that. A lot of times with Theta, we do a lot of work around just kind of some basic pillars of incorporating the divine definitions of trust and safety and how we address fear. And so putting in better values of that helps us to relate to things more objectively and to make better objective decisions that are not all emotional decisions. Because when we make decisions out of fear, we're not making good decisions.
Well, I love this, and I'm enjoying this conversation so much, and I hope everyone who is watching or listening is as well. I'm gonna pause for 1 second, and we'll be right back with you in just a moment. But I have something that I want to share, and in fact, I want to ask you a question. Those of you out there, if you're tired of second guessing your decisions and maybe feeling stuck in self-doubt, you're not alone, because I've been there, done that. And that's why I created Align to Shine Academy. And this is a powerful 4-week journey to help purpose-driven entrepreneurs like you step into their full power. And, no more doubting yourself, no more playing small. Together, we're going to align your business with your true purpose so that you can attract clients who light you up. And if you are ready to build a business that feels as good as it looks, I hope you will join us at Align to Shine Academy. Program kicks off on Tuesday, November 26th. So depending on when you're hearing this, it's either right around the corner or it is that day. So, so don't wait. Go to aligntoshineacademy.net for all the details, learn more, and I will have that in the show notes as well for you. So without further ado, our little commercial break is over. I'm going to bring Amanda back up, and I want to continue this conversation. So I was wondering if you can answer this question: how can women or men? I'm guessing you probably work more with women, but how can they reframe divorce as a spiritual awakening, perhaps, rather than just an ending?
So that's a very good question, Gloria. I would say one of the first things is they need to really, and yes, I do work with men as well. And that's a uniqueness in the divorce industry because many of the healers out there are women and they do only work with women. But I do work with men and women. From my perspective, we're humans first. And we all need to process things. So, so I do work with both men and women. But taking into account, how do you get past that initial I'm a failure? And so that is looking at doing that internal work and doing some personal growth of how did you come into that belief? Where did you pick up along the way that you can't change your mind? You can't outgrow a situation. And so looking at that and finding out, where did that foundation come from? And what parts of that foundation still serve you? And what parts are a hindrance to you? And so that's where we look at that, is just kind of going into that. The cool thing with Theta, though, is we can look at the feeling-based stuff, and you don't have to retell your story. So if it's because of another traumatic incident that has happened in your life, you don't need to go through that trauma again like you do in traditional therapy. And Theta healing, it dovetails very nicely with traditional therapy. It does not take the place, especially when you go through that one of those 5 stages of grief is depression. And that's where having someone to work with you and to see when maybe you are needing those professional services, that you need to reach out to a therapist or someone else so that you can get a handle of this before it gets into a troublesome area. But, looking at that, and so that's what I say. We gotta dig up some of that stuff, find out where it started, and then give you a new foundation that works well with where you are. And it's not a one size fits all. It really is not. It's because we all come from the same but very different areas of what we've learned, and some of it is cultural. So I have clients all over the globe, and understanding their cultural differences and how that relates to where they need to be going.
I appreciate you sharing that, and it is interesting that different cultural differences could definitely make a big impact on that, because they have, different cultures have different values with regards to marriage, and certainly with divorce. When you first start to work with a client, is there something like that you recommend that they do, when they're not seeing you, that can help them? Because I'm thinking, if someone's listening to this and maybe they're wanting to, work with a divorce coach, but maybe they're a little nervous, maybe can you walk through that a little bit, and how it can really help them and where they can get started?
So I look at, and healing from divorce is like healing from so many other things. And that sounds so cliche, I know. One of the first things is looking at that self-care. What are you doing to take care of yourself? And looking at being more positive and gratitude and finding the silver lining in everything, because what you focus on grows. And so if you're putting your attention on looking at all the negative things, you're going to see way more negative things. And when you start looking for that positive, and I use the, spilling coffee. Okay, so I slopped coffee. I slopped it onto my saucer. I'm so grateful that I had a saucer to slop it on. And now I'm also grateful that I have a reason to wash my saucer because it got dirty, instead of just washing it because it came out of the cupboard. Spilling something, and if I didn't have a saucer and I spilled it clear down to the floor, I'm so thankful I have a dog. I don't know how people that don't have dogs deal with this, being thankful for those little things and using that gratitude and that positivity helps you to find more silver linings and more positivity in your day. When you start looking at all the things that are negative and picking out every little negative thing, you're going to do that. And when you're not taking care of yourself, you cannot take care of anyone else. So especially when you have kiddos. And I know for women, oftentimes we feel that self-care is selfish. It's not. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you're not taking good care of your animals or your plants or anything else. And I went to a mental health conference and they were potting up succulents. And the whole thinking behind that is, when you have a plant to take care of, you take better care of yourself. The same thing with our pets and our children and all of that stuff. So I encourage people to do some meditations. I have guided meditations on my website, on my YouTube. I have guided meditations through the 5 stages of grief. Journaling. Get it out of your system. all of this stuff is coming up and you've got to let it out or it's just going to fester and burn a hole in you. So doing those self-care things, journaling, meditating, and I know a lot of people think, I can't meditate. I don't know. You know what? Meditation is one of the biggest misnomers. It's where you give yourself time and peace to just be in the moment, be present. Even if you start your meditation practice by mindful eating, mindful eating of those blueberries. You look at that blueberry, and I want you to look and study at every little nook and cranny of that blueberry. I want you to envision that blueberry on the tree and how it grew, how that tree grew and the soil and the nutrients, and think about the people who picked it and washed it and put it in that package for you. You're being present. That is a type of meditation. So don't let the word meditation don't be hung up on that.
I concur 100% because I often say on the show as well, it's like it could be going out for a walk in nature. It doesn't have to be, sitting and going for 20 minutes. No. And I heard someone say, washing the dishes, that could be another mindful practice as well, where you're really concentrating on cleaning.
Oh.
But I love that example though, with the blueberries. That was very cool.
Yeah. I think that was one of my first introductions to mindful eating. And eating is a very caretaker thing. And when you're going through a divorce, you need to be mindful of that. People either gain weight or they lose weight, and there's a study of this, you gain this much, you gain that much, how many years you know what? You don't have to. You can just take care of yourself. Be mindful when you're hungry and eat good foods. Don't buy junk food because you're just going to eat it. Focus on those things. And that is self-care. Make sure you're hydrated. You're getting up. You're managing your sleep schedule. Yes, there are days you feel like, and you're going to be, It's okay. Give yourself that space. Acknowledge that, hey, I need a little extra care today. And that's okay. It's when we deny those things that we get ourselves into trouble.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Been there, done that, and grateful that I've gotten past that. And it was funny when you were talking about gratitude. I was like, that was going to be my next question. So, so I'm glad you covered it. So that was perfect. Because that's one thing when you can start to, yes, you could be going through this, angst and having arguments and things like that. But if you try to go back and remember, okay, why did I fall in love with this person in the first place? Maybe even, start to remember the good times that we had and just, and remember that with love. And I know it takes a while. It does take a while to get there. But when you can get there, I think it is definitely healing to be able to get there, because it's the same with when you lose someone through death. It's hard in the beginning, but eventually you can start thinking back to those memories and smile instead of cry about them.
And forgiveness. I forget that. Yeah. Forgiveness is a huge part. Forgive yourself. You did not single-handedly create this problem. You single-handedly didn't, but you did have a part in it. You set the stage for how you allow people to treat you. And this is not just in your marriage, but it's everybody else. And I remember for years afterwards, I thought, everybody took advantage of me. They knew my life was falling apart and they still did this and they did this and they did this and they took advantage of me and they just brought me further down. No, they did because I let them. And so owning the pieces of that puzzle that I had to do with that, and rethinking that and adjusting your thoughts. And that's where that positivity comes in. And when you have a negative thought, you need to throw it out. Cancel that, send it off to God, let it be transmuted, come back into positivity and peace in the world. Sounds like pixie dust and unicorn parts, but it really does work. And I remember in the beginning when I was learning to acknowledge how much negativity I put out there. And mostly in the car, I would be driving along and I'd have a negative thought. Oh, need to throw that out. Oh, there's another one. Throw that out. And I just know, and I talk about this in my book as well. I just knew there was someone, if the litter police were around there, I would get ticketed for throwing so much negativity out. And I had a friend talking about toxic positivity. And I think that that happens when you don't allow yourself to have those days. Don't
Yes.
acknowledge it. Life is a roller coaster, but let's ride the ups. Let's stay out of the downs. Let's acknowledge those downs, and let's do everything we can in our power to reach out. Reach out to your best friend, your therapist, your coach, whoever it is that you can be with that can acknowledge that, especially those people that you can just talk to. They don't have to fix it. We are all such good fixers. When you find someone that can just listen and doesn't have to fix you, you have a gem.
Yes. And we're clearly on the same wavelength, because I was like going, yeah, because I'm thinking it's like, it's so important to know that you don't have to go through this alone, that you can, to do that, to reach out to someone, as you said, a friend, certainly, a coach like you is definitely helpful, or a therapist, but don't try to solve this on your own. It's too much. It can be so overwhelming, I think.
Yeah. And there's so many people who've done that. And yes, there are online support groups, but if that's the route you choose, please, 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 I beg you, be so very careful what you're discussing online, how much information you're putting out there, because those places have so many people who are just stalking you. So just be very mindful of that. Keep those conversations on those social media platforms. Do not do individual pages. Do not discuss your children. Your children are so sacred and unique. And my children are grown, and I still protect them, as if they were still toddlers.
Yeah.
They deserve that. They deserve that. Your children, and I talk a lot about co-parenting and coaching in that whole co-parenting realm. You have children together, so you need to be mindful of how you treat your ex.
Yes.
Because you are going to be involved with them for many years. Not just till your kids turn 21.
Right.
You're still gonna interact in weddings and baby showers and all of those things. And I remember when my ex was going to come and pick up our daughter, and I knew that he was coming. And she was old enough, she'd take herself to the driveway. He was only coming to the driveway. He was not coming in the house. And I was physically violent sick. I just wanted to lock myself in the bathroom and just not be present. But I was a better human than that. I pushed myself through that. But I'll tell you what, going through the healing, and like you said, being able to look at the good things, the things, why you were attracted to this person, how the things that you have in common, and to celebrate those things, and to do the forgiveness to yourself and the forgiveness to them for not continuing this marriage, for not continuing to be compatible. And I don't know that I can tell you exactly why my divorce happened, what the catalyst was, because that's not important. The important thing is that I've healed. And now when it comes for birthdays and stuff, my ex-husband comes to our home. We celebrate family birthdays together and things like that. And that's okay. And I'm not sick anymore. I'm not violently ill. If I had a problem, I wouldn't hesitate to call him and say, hey, I need help with this.
Yeah.
That's being an adult, and that's being responsible. And when you learn to take care of yourself, then you learn to nurture those other things. And when you can forgive, your world gets bigger.
I love it. Well, I'm going to shift gears just for a second, because we are just about running out of time, but I still love asking my guests this question. So I would love to know, what are you curious about right now?
Oh, goodness. I'm curious to know how, here in the US, we're undergoing a lot of changes and shifts. And I'm curious to know how everyone is going to, I guess maybe it's not a curiosity, it's a challenge. Challenge everyone to find a positive nugget in this, and to make it an opportunity for change and growth. And if you only do it for yourself, we cannot bear the weight of the world. But as we all find something positive, we raise those positivity vibes. And as the world becomes more positive, this negativity cannot thrive.
Absolutely. Yep. Light always outshines the darkness. So
Mhm. It does. So find your light and shine it, and don't push yourself down. You are
right.
here to shine, and if others can't handle it, give them some sunglasses, okay? Be
I
you
like
and
that.
shine bright. I'm not talking about being the obnoxious you, which I'm fully capable of doing upon occasion. Um, but shine and be happy. And don't let, you're gonna find I go to places or hang out with people that I did before I did all this healing work, and it's like, "Ooh, ooh, no wonder I needed healing." Those environments are no longer comfortable,
Mhm.
and that's okay. I go in, I shine my light. Those who wanna receive it are gonna receive it, and those who don't, that's okay. I'm not here for everyone.
Exactly. Yes. Oh, lovely, lovely, lovely. I have enjoyed this conversation so much, and I'm sure others have as well. So if someone wants to learn more about you, where's the best place for them to go?
So the best place is going to be on my website, which is AmandaBethHealing.com. And there's all kinds of connections there. If you're looking specifically more for the divorce services, those are at yourdivorcehealing.com. But there's links in and out of all of those.
All right, excellent. Well, I will be sure and I'll put both of those into the show notes for those of you listening. And yeah, I I loved this conversation. I thought you shared some wonderful, great tips to help folks out there. And I think just know that there's hope. You can heal, and yeah, just live your life in the now. I think.
Yeah. And you don't have to do it alone.
Right.
There's
Right.
whether it's me or your best friend, find that connection. Don't try it alone. There's too many people out there who are willing to help you. So
Definitely.
take their help. And that's a big step too, learning to accept help.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yep. One of the things I teach in my own program. So, yeah, I know how important that is. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you being with us today, Amanda.
Thank you so much, Gloria. Thank you for sharing your podcast and your audience. It's been great to be here. I appreciate it.
Mm. And I do want to thank all of you for watching and for listening. And I encourage you, if you did enjoy this program today, if you want to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or leave a comment on YouTube if you're watching it there, and make sure that you are subscribed, and then you'll be notified when our next show comes out. So until next time, as always, I encourage you to go out and live fully, love deeply, and engage authentically.